Welcome to another episode of the Flag Stays Down podcast. Still in the Hunt edition. Coming back as I forgot what I read today. Something about Chelsea resurrecting themselves, just as in the spirit of Easter, coming back on the third day. So congratulations to them pulling out the late equalizer and late winner. But we're celebrating Easter here on the pod. Full house. You got Parker. You got Matt. Matt, how you doing?
Doing good. Yeah, it was a nice kind of eventful weekend. Busy day today with the Chelsea game. Wasn't able to watch the entire thing because we had to go to our neighborhood park for an Easter egg hunt. Then we went to church. Then I spent the next 2.5 hours peeling eggs, because we were making deviled eggs to bring over to my parents for Easter. So if you ever think that deviled eggs are a good choice to make, don't. They're delicious, don't get me wrong, but they are a pain in the ass to
And in
make.
this economy,
Yeah, I know. I had to take out a second mortgage just to buy the eggs. Um, so yeah, it was a fun little day, and then yeah, I went over to my parents, and my little man just ran ragged with his cousin. Um, I'm hoping he'll sleep through the night. I don't know how he has any energy left with the amount of running he did, but I'm sure he'll be up in probably another few hours. Other than that, no, it was a great weekend. We're still actively on baby watch, so things could happen whenever. So we're just kind of taking it day by day and just seeing where things go. But yeah, we've gotten about as ready as we can be. We've got names picked out for a boy or a girl. So that's the hard part. Got that done. So now we just kind of wait and see. But yeah, all good. Parks, how are you?
whenever you say baby watch, I picture Paul Rudd and Anchorman when he says panda watch, and they continue to update on the baby panda. So just know that I'm thinking about you and pandas at the same time whenever we talk about your future little guy or girl. So no, it's exciting time, man. I'm excited for you guys, and I know due date's coming up, so should be any day now. It's kind of cool. My weekend was fine. Spent a lot of just time relaxing because I've not felt good. Fun thing about having a kid in daycare is you just catch everything. And I've gone from sinus infection to flu to sore throat-ish, all in about 2 weeks. So I've had a bunch of antibodies through me and antibiotics and Gatorades and Propels and water and whatever, and trying to sleep as much as I can. So it feels like I literally sleep and then I wake up and I go to work and then I come home and I sleep and I do it all over again. So that's been my schedule for the past week. But one thing that's been fun is my wife and I started a new video game over the weekend, and it's this weird combination of it's an escape room kind of, but it's a roguelite game, which I don't know if you guys know what that means, but what it means is like every time you start over, every time like you do a run and you start over, everything like switches up, like all of the rooms change places and everything, and you get to kind of pick your we have like notebooks out and we're taking notes because every time you like find a new room, you get to like take notes in the room and you put clues together and it might help you with a different room somewhere else down the line, and you keep playing through it and you like learn more and more every time. And so we're like unlocking secrets, and it's just been kind of a fun interactive escape room that her and I have been doing. So game's called Blueprints. So it's been a fun Xbox game that we checked out. So um, that's kept my spirits up. That and I always love a good day where I can start up the smoker and smoke a ham and make some fun nummies for the next couple of days. That's been my week in review. Collins, how you doing, man?
Good. It was home opener for Ford Madison last night, Saturday, against newly formed Texoma FC. And yeah, that was the chant come out of the crowd is where the hell is Texoma? Texoma had not won a game. They took the lead 1-0 going into stoppage time in the second half. And Ford Madison equalizes. And then, oh my gosh, we have almost the same thing, +1 today with Chelsea. And floated this question to you guys yesterday, and we're just going to kick it off with this right now. What is the point of all this? Why do we put our hearts into something that we know is going to hurt us?
I think because we were raised in Wisconsin, We're a very loyal fan base to our teams. Parker is currently wearing his Packers hat, if that's any indication, and he's lived in Minnesota for a while and now in Colorado. Collins, I know you're kind of split with, I don't know how you're split. Let's put it this way. You've got Kansas City, you're a Chiefs fan, you're a Chicago White Sox fan, you're a Brewer fan. You've got a you've got a lot of stuff going on. And then, me, I'm Wisconsin fan. I was just at an Admirals game on Friday. So like we love just our hometown. We're small, we're a small market team, small market state. We just love our teams, regardless of how it plays out. And we know we're not going to win a lot or big major championships, but we still love our team. I blame Wisconsin. That's kind of how I sum it up.
And London is not a small market. We are Chelsea fans, big market team, big spending cap. But I've always believed that you do not get to experience the high highs without the low lows as a sports fan. If you just kind of float and you cheer for whoever's good, and if tomorrow I'm a Liverpool fan, and then in 3 years I'm a Newcastle fan when they're competing for the whoever, right? If you're always just cheering for the best, like you'd never get that low sinking feeling when your team is shit and you have to go through it. So then your high just never is as high as it can be. So teams that people that cheer for teams through the ups and the downs, through everything that goes on, I just think like you get more out of it long term, and that's how communities get formed, right? Like you go to the pub, you see the same people, and you share a beer with them no matter whether your team is winning, losing, relegated, doesn't really matter. You're still kind of cheering for the same team. You're still there for it. And then if you guys can stick through that moment, right? There's a lot of like life metaphors there. But if you can get through those hard times, the good times feel a lot better.
Unless you're a Cleveland Browns fan.
Yeah, fair.
Then that's just brutal.
Then you're sent for the quarterback jersey with the 40 names on it. No, and it's weird when I thought about this on the drive home from Madison last night. It's a weird contrast between the local team, for me, Ford Madison, and the big player, like the one that our hearts are all with, and that's Chelsea. And it's you kind of come to understand what everybody talks about when they talk about the match going fans at Stamford Bridge. It's a different experience watching Madison in Madison, being part of the flock, and all the noise and the movement and all that, as opposed to sitting on the couch and watching it here. It's a completely different experience, one that takes a lot out of you physically and mentally. I don't know, man. I don't. Sometimes I struggle with Chelsea Football Club. They turn it on, they give up a goal, so called offsides, and then 10 minutes later give up another goal and it's not offsides, and you just think, oh shit, here we go again. It can be tough, but Parker, like you said, that's what leads to the joy of the highs.
And I think this year has just taken a lot out of the fan base. And yeah, I mentioned this to you guys while watching the match, but just like we go through stages as fans, and I think a lot of people point fingers at the manager, and at the end of the day, it's about the 11 that are out there. And I'm thinking to myself, like, look, we have no excuses. I could sit here and say, like, we'd be so much better with Lavia, or with West Fofana anchoring our defense, consistently. I think we'd be a much better team. Like, sure, those things can be very true. And we have a good enough team to be able to compete in every match that we step foot out on. So it's like, something's not gelling. The guys don't look like they play for each other all the time. And at the end of the day, I still firmly believe, manager has the ability to take a good team to a pretty good team, or a bad team to a not so great team. Like there's something quantifiable about it. But Liverpool had legendary manager with Jurgen Klopp, and they get a new manager and they look better than ever. And I'm not attributing almost any of it to their manager. I'm attributing it to their very well established team, very well crafted team. I don't know if you guys looked at this, but like I looked at their roster that played today, and their bench gets on most teams in the Premier League. And like guys like Trent and Harvey Elliott and Jota were all benched today, and coming off the bench. And I'm like, boy, these guys get in most Premier League teams. And we've had teams that look like that. We've had teams that resemble that as well. But for some reason, our team just there's some in squad fighting. I saw a lot of yelling at each other out there today, and I think that's hard to support. It's hard to just want to cheer for a team that doesn't really look like they want to be out there.
Parker,
You talk,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. So you talk about like the infighting. One that I've kind of pinpointed more so over the last, I would say probably 2 weeks than anything, is Cole Palmer and Noni Madueke. Something isn't right there. And it happens very consistently. They're not on the same page for whatever reason. It's something I've seen specifically, like more specifically in the last two matches. Something's got to get figured out with that. I think that's leading to a lot of issues, specifically when we talk about Cole Palmer, right? Like, yes, he's gone on a cold streak. He's still impacting the game, just not in the way that we're used to seeing it. And granted, I think what we got out of him was probably way more than anybody would have ever expected. So his expectations now are very, very high, right? We've talked about that with other people like Enzo Fernandez, right? He's set the bar so high that an average game looks like a bad game. And I think that's kind of where we're at with Cole Palmer. Yes, he's supposed to be scoring goals. He scored a lot of goals for us last season, but that's because we didn't have a ton of help in the goal scoring area last year. Now we have other options who can help contribute. And so I think with him going cold, it's opening up again those opportunities for others to kind of step up. And we see it, I think for the most part, other people are contributing. We're not solely reliant on Cole Palmer. However, we are still looking to him to at least, kind of start the attack or kind of find something creative out of him. And I think he's doing his best to do that, but I definitely think with him playing predominantly more on that right side and with Noni with his issues with Noni not being, with the both of them just kind of being a little bit bitchy towards each other, I think that that's contributing to a fair amount of that.
And Noni, God, I feel like a broken record at this, but Noni's had his issues with the team over the last 2 years. Breaking curfew and undisclosed this that he's being fined for, undisclosed this that he's being suspended for, leaks about this or that, or going out to a club celebrating after a loss, like just weird stuff that's not like, hey, I'm a great teammate. Now, Cole Palmer, I think, gets a pass, right? Whether we like it or not, he gets the pass. He may be a bad teammate for all we know. Cole Palmer might just be a piece of shit in the locker room. I don't know. But he puts up, so he doesn't have to shut up. Noni's got to be close to out the door at this point. I know that he's an exciting player. He's young, and there's a group of fans that like him, and the manager likes him. Maybe he's one of our better wingers this year, but we got some talent coming in next year. And man, if you're gonna be pushing in multiple top tier competitions next year, you don't need head cases who are gonna kill any kind of psychological momentum you have. And if this bitching is going to continue, he's got to be the one to go.
Yeah, I've cheered for Noni because of what he's done on the pitch, and as time has gone on, I've been, very much realizing that his attitude and demeanor isn't acceptable for what we need to build going forward. So it's been hard because we haven't had someone to replace him. And I think like a big deal in all of that is the Mudryk suspension, I think really hurt our plans for a lot of this, because if we have Mudryk consistently on the left, it really opens up a Neto to play consistently on the right. And I think that changes a lot of our dynamic. But if you have to then always be using Neto on the right and then Sancho on the left, and you don't really have anyone else, and I think that really threw a monkey wrench into our overall strategy for how the year was going to go.
So I didn't plan on talking about Noni a whole ton tonight, but I'm curious now with the way that we're all talking about him. We paid 35 mil for him in the 2022-2023 season. I don't know with amortization exactly what that it works out to be left, on that, but do you get your money back or more for Noni Madueke if you sell him over the summer?
I think you get more. I think you probably look at, I could see him, and I think that might even be low, right? I could see him again. You said it before. He's young. He's skilled. He does have some growing to do, but he does have, I think, well, still a lot of upside. It's just, is a team going to be, or are they going to want to take that on? And knowing the kind of head case that he is a team going to be able to take him on and fix that and unlock him at his full potential? I think the talent's there. I think 50 I would be comfortable with.
Yeah, and I think he can also go to a league where he has a little bit more freedom to roam and not have as much defensive responsibility. So if he's just like it's very one-dimensional, right? But like if you just tell him like just get the ball and take people on, shoot whenever you want, you got pretty much open reign to do so. He's like, done. That's exactly what I want to do. He'll do that. He'll do that for you all day. And I think he can do that pretty well. And, you see a lot of teams play where they just consistently attack down one way. And I think he's one of those guys that, he can be a difference maker if that's the case. We just have too many other egos and too many other high profile players where it doesn't really work to do that. We have a dynamic team that wants to attack down both flanks. Shocker, but you can't just go through him then. And anytime he doesn't get the ball, he can't throw a hissy fit. And anytime a pass is errant, he can't just bitch at everyone. Like it doesn't work on this team.
So looking at the other wing, we had two goals by wingers today, so I don't want to bash the position as a whole. Tyrique George, of course, scoring his first league goal, and Pedro Neto, apparently Mr. Eye Test for Matt, doing well. Matt, you mentioned Mudryk and his suspension. Do we want to call it a suspension at this point? He's not injured. Yeah, I agree that kind of threw a wrench into the plans. But what do we think is going on with Mudryk? What in terms of the now and the future? Because there's got to be something. Nothing formal has been announced in the 4 or 5 months since that happened.
So it's funny you bring that up because I actually had a conversation about that today with my brother. And he's like, "What's going on with Mudryk?" I said, "I don't know." I said, "I don't think anybody knows." Um, I kind of had to explain to him like what was going on. Like, yeah, he got in trouble. He tested positive for a banned substance that was basically given to him when he was with the Ukrainian national team. It's like, well, I don't know what to tell you there. Like, it's an interesting concept that the club gets punished for that when it's the national team that actually more or less supplied it. It's just interesting how the Premier League has, again, like nothing formal has come out from the Premier League or anything like that, nothing from Chelsea. It's just kind of strange how this whole thing is playing out. And then I shared this with you boys yesterday, but on the Chelsea Facebook page, the photo of Levi and Mudryk with his back, so his jersey showing, and that was the predominant part of the picture. So I was like, is something going on? Like, are we expecting an announcement? Is he going to be back soon? Like, what's happening? I understand not making it a big public thing because we don't like something like that. You just want to sweep it under the rug. You don't want to talk about it consistently. Maresca doesn't want to answer questions about it. I get that from a club and PR perspective. Sure. But we need to know something. Right now, we have no idea what's going on. Nobody has any idea if he's serving a suspension, he's if he's suspended without pay. Like, we don't know anything about what's going on. There's no timetable. I don't know if an appeal has even been submitted or if an appeal has been submitted, where that is in the process. We know nothing. And that's what bothers me the most is we don't have an answer. Not even an inkling to an answer. It's all speculation at this point.
Yeah, speculation is the word. Parker, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, and I stopped watching press conferences, so maybe this is going on and I don't know about it, but like, I feel like English media does keep bringing it up, Matt, and they're like, "Hey, any update on Mudryk? Hey, any update on Mudryk? Hey, any update?" And 99 times out of 100, you get the Bill Belichick no answer for all of it, right? But at least like the media keeps bringing it up until they get something out of it. And I don't see people asking the questions. It feels like, what it reminds me of, Collins? It reminds me of the Christian Horner allegations in F1 season last year. And it was this huge thing, and everyone thought people were going to leave. And then all of a sudden, poof, no one talks about this anymore. It was this huge thing, huge, everyone's talking about it, and there's big smoke fire, everything, and then all of a sudden it just went quiet. No one brought it up again. It's like I hate this stuff. And I think for suspension cases, like why keep it quiet? Like why there I don't think there's any reason or benefit to keep it quiet. Like tell us where they're at in the process. I don't think it hurts anything. I don't think it like it's like, yep, this happened. We don't have any details. We don't have a timeline, but this is what's going on. Like I wish there was just something. I wish there was any kind of communication where it's, swept under the rug and now we just are left guessing for it. So I hate that aspect of all of this because I don't think it's fair. But the one thing I do disagree with you, Matt, on is if it was a banned substance in the Premier League and not in the National League, like that is on player. I think league has jurisdiction to punish player regardless of who gave him anything. Like if you take something and you weren't supposed to take it, it doesn't matter where you got it from. It doesn't matter if it was allowed somewhere else. If it's not allowed in the league, then you deserve punishment. Now I know what Mudryk took is arguable, like common substance and not something that is performance enhancing the way that it was categorized as. Different argument, I think, or at least some ambiguity in the argument. But like if it's heroin and heroin's allowed in the Ukraine national team, but not in the Premier League, like and the doctors over there, prescribed it to them. I think the Premier League is well within their rights to say you violated our rules, right? You get a suspension here.
Yeah, and it's the same drug that I think it's there are a couple like famous athletes that have been caught with. I know Maria Sharapova is one of them. There's a boxer, I can't remember who that was, but anyways, it it you guys are right. It's weird that we haven't heard anything. Um, especially, I know it's different in America because all the teams are franchises of the league, and so the league technically controls all of them. Like it's all central, and in Europe, it's decentralized. So I get that there's not the same rules there, but you would think that with how nitpicky the Premier League is, with how nitpicky UEFA can be, that there'd be something, just some kind of notification of, oh, hey, he's banned for a year, 6 months, whatever it happens to be. I did find it interesting though that this week there was reports of Mudryk's contract being extended with changes to the contract. So it leads me to believe that it's not the Russell reports this week of, oh, it's a 4-year suspension. So I think it's not a 4-year suspension. You don't renew a guy's contract if you can't play for 4 years. He has to have failed that B sample that they were waiting on the results for. There's no way it's taking 4 months to even get the results of that. I can understand them kind of sweeping it under the rug and just hoping no one notices because there's already so much negativity around Chelsea Football Club that it's like, oh yeah, if we announce this, it's just going to be piling on. I get it.
So it's interesting because I just did a search on the old Google machine, just where is Mudryk? And apparently reports came out yesterday, like new reports, because Mudryk apparently tweeted something, X something on Instagram, and apparently it was a provisional suspension by the Football Association that he's on right now. And apparently, like you said, Collins, they're still waiting for that B sample, which I have a hard time believing that it's taken that long to get the B sample when they were very quick to come out with reports of the A sample.
And just not to butt in, but with my job, with my career background and running samples and testing and chain of custody and all that stuff, 4 months to wait for results is unheard of. A week, maybe two if you're busy. But I assume that UEFA is paying a lot of money for all these samples to be run. They're probably at the front of the list. This is ridiculous that it's provisional still at this point.
I just want to see him run fast again.
Yes, so fast. So is Mudryk back next year then?
Your best guess is mine, man. I have no idea.
Oh, sorry, not from suspension. Is he still at Chelsea Football Club?
Yeah. I don't think he gets sold because I don't know that you would have to make a statement at some point for anyone else to want to buy him.
I don't think you can. Who's going to want to pay whatever for a player that they don't know if they can even use for years? Like they don't know what its availability is going to be.
Barcelona does that every year.
I think they ran out of levers.
As well, I just think of Danny Olmo, their big signing from this summer, couldn't even play till January.
On a conditional registration or whatever it was.
Let's take Mudryk. You can just put him on a conditional right now.
Like they found the loophole within a loophole to register Danny Olmos. Yeah, I think that they've run out of favors over there.
All right. Well, getting off of wingers. Again, just a real quick shout out to Tyrique George with his first Premier League goal. But Parker, earlier you had mentioned the influence of the manager. And this week, maybe week and a half, the talk among fans has intensified. It's still a discussion at this point. It's not an argument from what I've seen, but more of a back and forth. Is Enzo Maresca fit to serve his duties as Chelsea manager for the remainder of the year?
Well, that's a loaded question. Is he fit to serve? Sure.
He's got a pulse, right? Sign him up.
Is he gonna last the year? Absolutely. Like the team is in a slightly better position than they were last year, just looking at all things kind of they're in a better position than they were last year. I don't think you move away from a guy like that. I also think you only get a couple chances to like have some one and done managers. At some point, fingers get pointed in other places. And I think that the manager position, you can't just keep running through managers and expect top managers to keep signing up and then get the door and then rehaul everything and keep doing that over and over and over again. So to answer your question, I think he continues the year out, and I think he has a relatively long runway into next year too. I don't think his job's in jeopardy, and I don't think it should be.
I think, yeah, he makes it for the rest of the season. We're too far in this. There's what, less than a month left? You're not going to sack him with less than a month left. Like, there's no way. I did hear something interesting, and it was from, I think, his press conference when he was asked about where he sees improvements within the squad. And it was just a small, like, reel or something. But he was basically saying, I don't know what the previous managers were doing before, like with the players and everything like that, but we were in top four consistently for most of the season, and that wasn't the case the last two seasons. So by that standard, I think we're improving. So, and as soon as I saw it, I'm like, you're not wrong, but that also doesn't mean jack shit if you finish the season sixth. Doesn't matter how you got there, you still got to six, which by any measure, six equals six. Like that's where we finished last season. That's where we finished this season. To me, it's the same. It's the same finishing position. And we've talked about where we see improvement, right? How do we judge progress and everything like that? And are developing, and or do we see growth with these players? I think it's a lot harder to tell this season than it was last season. I think that's kind of where I have a hard time kind of splitting the two. Is from an individual standpoint, I don't see the same amount of strides as I did last season, but from just looking at where we've been in the season, in the Premier League specifically, we have been pretty close to, if not consistently, in the top four for majority of the season. Yes, that's absolutely right. We have been actively fighting for a Champions League spot, which last season we willed ourselves to a sixth place to even have a shot at the Conference League. So there's definitely a difference there. I think at the end of the day, though, sixth is sixth. At that point, is there really much improvement? I think it's a little bit subjective, but to me, just on paper, you finished in the same spot you did last season, not necessarily the drastic improvement or the improvement that we would want to see as as Chelsea fans, right? We want to see a solidified top four, not just trying to kind of limp in with that fifth spot, if it comes to that.
Yeah, and so I guess the better question for you guys is does he make it past the Club World Cup? Parker, I know you said he's got a longer runway in the next year, and I'm thinking back to some of the briefings we got, some of the leaks we got from like Fabrizio Romano and all those folks about this time last year about Pochettino. And they were all, oh, well, they're going to evaluate at the end of the year. Oh, It's all going to be analytics driven. It was coming out how it was going to be done. Knowing the end result, it was all coming out like, hey, we're evaluating him this way. We're going to have this meeting. We're going to talk about this, and he's going to get fired. Like we knew pretty much this time last year. They were saying it without saying it. I haven't seen any of that from, at least from kind of off social media, but from Fabrizio. Oh my gosh, those are two very difficult words to say consecutively. We really haven't heard that from him. He just said this week that on his podcast that there is no chance that Maresca doesn't make it through the end of the year, that he's 100% on board with the project. Owners are on board with him. He is 100% involved in the transfers. Like it's going to be his team kind of a deal. It's an opposite feeling. And I know it's not an opposite feeling amongst the fans this year to last year, but at least what we're getting off the record from journalists, it's completely different. I think he's, Parker, like you said, gets a pretty long runway into next year.
And I know it's deserved. I just think like if it was deserved, then I think Poch got mistreated, is all I'll say. Like I think Poch did a lot to deserve another year. And I know you kind of have to you get put in these situations where if you can get a guy on a long-term deal and that's the guy you really want, then cut ties today. And I get all of that. So if that's the case, that's the case. I just think like I still go back to the team that Pochettino got versus the team he gave over to Maresca. I saw growth out of that squad. And the question I wanted to ask you, Collins, was who on this team has improved year over year? And I know we're not done with the year, but we're 33 games through the league. And there aren't many players on this squad that I've seen a lot of growth out of. There are some that I've seen some growth out of, but most people have taken a lateral step or a step backwards, in my opinion. So there are some alarm bells that are kind of ringing off with me with just the team. And I'm not attributing all of this to Maresca. I'm not, but I do believe part of your job as the manager is to develop your talent, develop the guys that you have and make them better footballers and make them play in a system that maximizes their strengths. So we can go through this just Fulham lineup today if we want to do that. But like who has gotten better on the squad year over year? I'll start with Sanchez.
I would say he's improved. His distribution has stayed about the same. Actually, I think it's gotten a little bit better since Maresca has told him just, boot it, basically. Like, hey, unless it's open, boot it. His shot stopping has improved over last year. So, yes, the bar was low, but I'd say Sanchez has improved this year. The guy got benched for a guy who we sent out on loan to our B squad last year.
I think Sanchez has like the most errors leading to goals this year in the league. And I think he hasn't been as good of a shot stopper year over year. I think his distribution has gotten somewhat better, but I think the argument of your manager doesn't trust you, so he tells you to boot it isn't an improvement. That's not an improvement on your distribution. That's he doesn't trust you to distribute it, so he tells you to boot it and play against the way he actually wants you to play.
And if it is his job just to boot it, he's not doing a great job of that either. So to me, I think that Sanchez has remained the same. I haven't seen anything that would show me like an improvement to be like, oh yeah, he's definitely done a lot better. I wouldn't say anything that I've seen has shown me that he's taken a step in improving. I think he's been the same as last year. I still kind of get the same feeling whenever he's in goal. I just don't have a lot of trust in him.
All right, hit me with the stats.
I'm looking him up. I saw something earlier this week about him being ranked in the top 10 overall keepers in Europe, and I couldn't find that post.
Yeah, I saw that. Like top, I think he's like 6 or something in the top 5 leagues.
Save percentage. And top in terms of save percentage, he is in the 88th percentile in top 5 leagues with almost a 77% save percentage. Crosses stopped, 95th percentile. Those are really the only stats that I really know what they mean. Looking at FB Ref, and they've got their player similarity scores based on statistics, because that's all, it's an algorithm putting it all together. Emi Martinez, Mike Magnan from AC Milan, Ruiz Silva from Sporting in Portugal, David Rea. There's some pretty decent names that other clubs seem to like. Now, again, I'm not saying he has set the world on fire. I'm just saying he is better than he was last year.
That's fair. And we don't have to debate all these. I'll concede at least a push. I think Reece James has gotten worse, having a much worse year than he did last year.
Well, are you talking about him as a right back or a midfielder?
And
Either.
are we talking about him healthy or not healthy? Because his health has improved a lot this year. Pochettino's not running him into the ground.
I'm talking about his skill as a footballer.
I don't think that his skill has diminished in any regard. I think how Maresca wants him to play is leading to that. I don't think he has as much freedom, and playing him as a midfielder, I think, is detrimental to Reece and his game and what he's best at. Again, we know what's going on with his health and how it's been very inconsistent over the last few seasons. Yeah, if it is worse, I don't think it's him. I think it's what he's being asked to do.
Yeah, and I can't evaluate Reece James last year. He played in 14 league games, and I think 5 of those were substitutions. Oh, sorry, 10. 14 was this year. So yeah, real hard to judge Reece James last year. I will say whatever they're doing in training is working. Whatever they're doing with physios is working. That has improved. He needs to play 2 out of the next 5 games to play his most games in a season since 2021.
Eye-watering stat. Trev is next on the list.
Trev is such a bleh player. Really doesn't do a whole lot wrong. Really doesn't do a whole lot well.
And his errors.
I'd give him a push.
I would say push. I would say I haven't seen enough to say it's been an improvement year for him. We still see him making similar mistakes that he did last season even when he wasn't playing left back. I still see similar mistakes out of him. Even last year as a center back, like we knew he was solid. I would say he was solid. I think he's solid. Sorry, Collins, I'll switch the wording. Serviceable. He's serviceable.
Also, someone who dealt with injury last year.
Yeah. And I think again, he's serviceable. The one thing I think that has improved is, and this is going to seem very kind of like an oxymoron, but his attitude, it comes off like more, it looks like he has a bad attitude, but it's a good thing. Like he comes off, he's got a little bit more sass to him. He's got a little bit more fire in his belly. He kind of plays more physically, telling people to go, fuck themselves, like all this different stuff. Like that's the attitude I expect to see out of my center back and somebody who, if you're going to lead that line, that's what I expect. I have seen that improve, but overall, I wouldn't say it's anything drastic or anything major.
Yeah, and I would give a push, slightly leaning towards a slight improvement. But again, it's more of a health thing. He has played the most matches in all competitions this year. I'm sorry, he's tied. He needs to play one more match this year, and he has played more games in a season than he has in his entire career. So health is a plus, but I'll give it a push.
I think when he was healthy last year, I thought he played better and more consistent than this year. I'm fine with the push. Mark Cucurella is an interesting one.
Why? Why is it an interesting one?
Because I think his role has changed, but I think he had a good year last year, and I think he's having a good year this year. I don't have the stats in front of me to look at everything for it, but I think I don't know. I think he was a solid player for us last season, contributed and did a lot for us. I think he's probably scored more goals for us this year. Or had more goal involvements for us this year. But as a complete player, we definitely raved about him a lot last year. He was one of my highlights of the year last year. So I probably put it at a push.
I would say better for one very simple and glaring reason. He's scoring goals. He's still doing all the same stuff that he was doing. He's still being just a little shit grin eating penguin out there, and I love it. He's playing well. So to me, I think the improvement is his goal scoring, right? Like he's definitely scoring, And that's probably the only facet of his game that could have been improved on, but that's asking a lot out of a defender. I think he's thrived in this new role, the inverted wingback role. So I think he's improved.
Yeah. Heads and toes, or not heads and toes, head and shoulders above where he was last year. Scoring goals, picking up assists, a lot less yellow cards. Well, maybe not a lot. Yellow cards is hard to measure, but yeah, he's kind of backed off that a little bit while also still being a little chippy out there, which is good. Yeah, I think his defending has gotten better. I can remember a time that I was the lone person on this pod saying that he deserved to be a starter, and last year was part of that. So he is a potential player of the season for us this year. Easy.
Then you get to the two actual players of the season. Caicedo and Fernandez, I think, have both improved. It was relatively easy for me.
Yep.
Agreed.
Noni
Depends on the week.
probably scored more goals, but I think he's had a worse year.
In terms of goal contributions, I think he's either our second highest winger or second highest attacker. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he's goal contributions. He is up there for us, which he was not last year.
We were third in goals for us. Yeah.
Yeah. Last year we were bitching that, he shoots every goddamn time, he won't pass. And his shooty boots were in another locker. I hate to say it, but he's improved.
I think he's improved as far as, and this is going to be a stretch, so bear with me. I think his decision making has improved in the sense that he's actually thinking about what he should do. Whether he makes the right decision or the wrong one, that's a different story. But he's at least thinking about more than just taking people one-on-one and shooting. He's thinking, okay, do I actually take the shot? Do I cross? Where do I go from this? Yes, they may be the wrong ones at the wrong times, but at least he's thinking about different things in that process. To me, I see that as growth. So I think the highs of Noni have outweighed the mediocrity of Noni from a collective this season.
I guess my last comment on him is just some of this is what I'm basing on, like, where are they trending? And the trend line, I'm more negative on Noni this year than I am on him last year. I don't want him on the team, whereas last year I saw more upside than downside with him. And that's where it's like with guys like Reece James, my overall feeling towards him is not as good as it was last year. My overall feeling towards Reece James is negative, partially because he was the main reason we conceded a goal today. Like, he got his pocket picked, and then when they go and turn over and score a goal, but like things like that contribute towards my feeling on where they're heading and where they're going. So for me, like, Noni's a very clear, like, not as high on him as I was.
And
Sorry. But
I was gonna say, I think that it kind of boils down to the ongoing debate in this pod. Is it analytics? Is it the eye test? Is it a combination of both? Noni, depending on how you're looking at it, could go one of three ways.
And like Matt started this conversation out, depends on the day. Palmer,
natural regression to the mean.
Yeah, hard to compete with the year he had last year. 22 goals, 11 assists in the league.
Yeah, it was a breakout year for a relatively unknown. I mean, we know what he can do. It's just that other teams also know what he can do, and they're able to plan for it, where last season they weren't. Yeah, I think just looking at his current form and where things are at compared to where he was last year, I would say yes, it has not been an improvement. I wouldn't even say it's been the same. I think it's been a regression. And Collins, to your point, I think it has been a regression to the mean. I think he was playing in another world last season, and now we're kind of back in a more realistic version of Cole Palmer.
And while he hasn't scored goals, I think it was the last 8 matches, something like that, he hasn't scored. He's still contributing. Like, you look at his stats, and he's still one of the highest chance creators in the league. He's up there, at least in the club. I haven't looked in the league, but goal contributions, he's still a good player out there.
I couldn't agree more. Most people's sophomore albums fall short of their breakout freshman effort.
Nice.
We can talk about Neto if you want, but kind of two different scenarios there. His goal contributions have gone down year over year. I looked it up. He had 13 with Wolves last year, and he's had 8 with us in the league this year. That's Premier League over Premier League without any of the other contests. He scored more goals for us. With Wolves, it was 2 and 11, 2 goals, 11 assists. For us, it's 4 goals, 4 assists. So
Just out of curiosity, do you have the per game on that? Because I don't watch Wolves a whole ton. I just assume that he played a lot for them, and he does not play consistently for us.
yeah, but you're not gonna like it. For the Wolves, it was 20 games, 2 goals, 11 assists. For us, it's 30 games, 4 goals, 4 assists.
Fair enough.
I don't know if there was injury in there. There must have been an injury in there somewhere because I would have assumed he played any game that he was healthy for him.
I think I would say it's been just looking at Neto with Chelsea, just looking at this season, I think it has been an improvement just based on the fact that when he first started, like we were excited, then he kind of ran into a little bit of a slump where like we didn't know what was going to happen, right? And then we all of a sudden find out his ability to play both wings and how dangerous that can be, especially with that left foot. And I think he's really grown into solidifying his position as a starting winger, whether it is on the right or the left. So for me, I would say that it's been an improvement this season.
Not related to an improvement or not, but I was thinking about this as I was watching some of the highlights. Who would you compare him to, winger wise, from Chelsea past? Because this is one you could go in a million different directions.
I would where he is now or what he could be.
No. Like the Pedro Neto this year. What when you watch him play, you think of so and so.
A better Victor Moses,
Okay.
like a more technically gifted Victor Moses. Like Victor could like blaze down, but he didn't have his like good of a cutback and make something happen off of that.
I would say a slightly downgraded Willian, somebody who has pace. You know that Willian had pace. They're very agile in those one-on-one scenarios. They can take people on, they can assist, they can shoot. He's not contributing as much as Willian, and Willian kind of sits in, a lot of our hearts a little bit differently. But I would say just a downgraded version of Willian.
So, I was thinking Andre Schürrle. He's got like a weird affinity for the club. Like he's got a weird like pound the badge a lot. He gets very, very excitable.
Along with every other celebration.
Well, that's my next question to you. But he can bang in some good goals. He can make some good plays, but he's not Mr. Consistent. Over the course of a year, he'll do fine. But game in, game out, not somebody you can necessarily rely on. I would be thrilled if we signed Pedro Neto and he turns into Andre Schürrle. Like that would be great. But like I said, but between the three of our shouts there, a million different directions: the good, the bad, and the ugly.
I think if those three had a baby, it's pretty close to Pedro, right?
Someone needs to ask AI to generate what that baby would look like.
Last one on the list is Nico Jackson. Curious your thoughts on this one, Collins. There's only one stat I care about with him that's better, and that's yellow cards. It's slightly better. It's not and you're comparing 27 games this year to 35 games last year, so it's hard because there's some injury here. But yeah, he had 10 yellow cards last year and 7 this year. I see improvement there.
I think obviously his injury didn't help things, but early in the season, you could have sold me on improve. Early in the season, you could have easily sold me on improve. Then we look at kind of where things are at now. I would say it's a push at best.
See, if there is a regression, I would say this is another regression to the mean. Nico had a great year last year. Even when he wasn't scoring, he was putting stuff towards the end of the year kind of on target. He was doing the Timo Werner, make space for himself, make good runs, good pressure. Like he was doing good things, but that was really his first year. I know he played 21 games for Villarreal the year before, but playing at Chelsea is something different. That year at Villarreal was technically his first year in top flight football. So you cancel that out last year. This is quote unquote breakout. This year, the league has adjusted. Next year, or last couple matches here even, is when he has to adjust to the league. And Matt, I think you're right. The injury didn't necessarily help. But I think this one's more of a a natural one rather than a coach thing.
I mean, his stats are better this year. He had 14 goals in 35 games last year. He has 9 goals in 21 games. So I think like his efficiency is better from a goals per game, but not from like a goals per shot because he gets a lot of looks. And so I think that's where he still needs to improve. I see parts of his game that I'm impressed with, and I see parts of his game that he definitely needs to improve on. So I think my feelings towards Nico are about the same as they were last year. I don't think he's going to be like the next Harry Kane or next, 40 goal scorer in the league, but I think he's good and serviceable and has a spot on the team. But I would really like to see him fight for a position consistently. I would really like to see um, another striker to like push him because I think he's one of those guys where when podcasters talk shit about him, looking at one that you love so much, Collins, with John Obi Mikel, when he gets into those is when he shows up. That's when he went on his like, little push run. And it's like, I think if someone got in his ear and just started talking shit to him and it was just like, I'm better than you. I can outscore you. And he's like, fuck yeah, you can. Like, let's see it. And then they go at it in practice and then, battle it out when they get out there. I think could be good for him.
So overall, we just went through the now that we've broken them all down, hasn't is it a net positive? Is it neutral? Is it a loss in terms of player progression?
I think overall it's positive for the most part. I don't think that there's been too much regression. It's funny how feelings aren't always proven by stats. And like just my memory of last year, it felt like we didn't concede as many goals as we do this year. And that's not true. We conceded more goals last year. We're on pace to concede less this year. And so it's just like, man, is my memory going to shit or is it just like emotionally tied with some of these things on how things feel? So I like to think it's the latter and that I'm not losing my mind at 34 years old, but it's just a funny kind of exercise to do because I think when you break it down as a team, I think we've improved. When you break it down by players, I think we've improved overall. And I think like, I think we're in a better position than we were, statistically and kind of emotionally.
I was just thinking about this as you asked it, Collins. The four people that we said improve are arguably the people that didn't need to improve. They're the people that we were not concerned about, with the exception of Neto. We talked about Caicedo, we talked about Enzo, we talked about Cucurella. All had good seasons last year. The good players are going to continue to improve. That's fine, regardless of who the manager is. It's the other players who I'm concerned about improving, the younger players, and I'm concerned about improving, right? We talk about Noni, Palmer, and Nico. Sure, we'll call it a natural regression. That's fine. Reese playing out of position. Trev just came back. Like, if we look at the team from last year, Disasi's not here anymore. Body of Shield, I would say a regression. I would just call it that. Malo Gusto, I would say has been arguably worse because he did have a very good season last year, and this inverted wingback position I think, takes away, again, similar to Reese, I think it takes away some of what makes them very good right backs. Lavia, again, still kind of a mystery.
He improved year over year. He didn't play
Yeah,
last year.
we actually saw him for more than one match. Yes, we'll give that an improvement. Nkunku, I would say definite regression. And so to me, it's like, okay, yeah, the arguably our best players, yeah, they're going to continue to improve. That's fine. I'm worried about the other players who actually really need to improve that are not. So that's where on paper, yeah, if you look at net, yeah, I would say that we've improved. But the people improving are not the ones that we're concerned about improving. That's the problem.
So kind of on a related note, but not really, boys. I have one more short topic for you. I know that we're running a little long today, but Tyrique George has now scored multiple times this season, multiple times this week, I believe, or no, 2 weeks. We have watched in various cup games and late season, whatnot, a lot of Cobham players. Matt, I know you've been very excited about a lot of them over the last couple of years. Should we be excited about Tyrique George? Can we be excited about Tyrique George, or is he going to wind up being a Harvey Vale?
I think he's going to end up being a Harvey Vale. I really do. Um, the position that he plays, we know what we have going on at that position. We know there's a lot up in the air. We know we have a lot of young talent that is on loan that is going to be coming back and is reportedly in the plans for next season. So if Tyrique George is having a problem breaking into the squad when we are without Mudryk for however long, and we have Noni who kind of shows up when he wants to, depending on how hard the wind's blowing on that particular day. If we're saying that he can't still earn a spot in that regard, I don't see him being a part of this team's future with Maresca at the helm. I think it's going to be too competitive, and I don't know if he has done or if he has the potential to out kind of what we have in place already.
What do you think, Collins?
I was trying to think back earlier today about Harvey Vale and our excitement about him. And I was trying to picture the environment in which he was coming up, and I couldn't remember. Was it the year we won the Champions League? No, sorry. The season immediately after we won the Champions League, or was it in kind of the shit, we're gonna get relegated season?
I think it was the year after the Champions League because it was crowded left back a lot at left back.
That's
He
right.
wasn't playing, he wasn't playing left back. He was
Was playing
playing
Oh, I'm
winger.
sorry. I was thinking,
Lewis Hall.
yeah, sorry.
Honestly, I think it could have been the 2021. I think it could have been the Champions League season because if you just think about it with how deep we were going in tournaments and things like that, I think it was during that run where he was playing in like the FA Cup and all like the FA Cup games and Carabao Cup games, and he did pretty well. But he was one of those Ruben Loftus-Cheeks. He was kind of a plug and play at a lot of different positions, and I don't think he ever really solidified a position at Chelsea because he was able to play multiple. I think he was kind of a victim of his own demise that he was good at different spots all over the pitch, and I just don't know that he necessarily found a position long term that suited him.
So I just looked it up. It was the year after the Champions League. Um, so it was Tuchel's first full season. Played in 7 matches. Tyrique George looks different to me than Harvey Vale did. Harvey Vale was exciting. We had a lot of talent around him, and due to that, he was allowed to kind of do his thing when he was out on the pitch. Tyrique George is coming in almost as a peer with this group. There's no one on this team who is distracting defenders away from him. Tyrique George is dealing with it, and he's succeeding for the most part. Now, I think a lot of it is going to come down to what his next couple loans look like. He's not going to be here for the whole year next year. He will be loaned at some point, but you got to get those loans right. We've seen Chelsea destroy careers with terrible loans. And I hope that doesn't happen. But I think if things progress the way they're supposed to progress, I think he's absolutely a Chelsea guy through and through.
I just looked Harvey Vale up for the record, and it's amazing. Two things. One, that he's only 21 years old, because it feels like we've been talking about Harvey Vale for 10 years now. And two, that he is playing for Chelsea still on the PL2 team. So that's interesting to me. But besides the point.
We sold him in January on a free to QPR.
Oh, we did. Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right.
We get a like 2% sell on clause, but there's no transfer fee.
That's right. I forgot about that. It doesn't look like he's played for QPR much. Anyway, the optimist in me wants you to be so right, Collins. Like, we get a couple good loan spells for Tyrique, and then he can kind of come and play a role in the squad. But unfortunately, we run this club a little bit like a business, and if we sell him, we put him out on a loan, and he does well, it's going to be an Ian Matson situation where someone's going to offer 20-25 for a kid, and it's pure profit to us because he's homegrown. And I hate to say things like this, but like, That funds Jadon Sancho, right? Like that's what we paid for Jadon Sancho. So we just traded, Tyrique George for Jadon Sancho, and it looks like we win on that deal. That's how we run this club. Not we. That's how they run this club. But that's how things are managed, right? And odds are that that's probably a situation like that to me is far more likely than he finds a way to carve in long term. And I'm excited by him as a prospect. I'm excited by what he brings. I just think the chances are so low of someone getting the leeway as a young player and then getting the consistent minutes as a young player that they need. Everyone looks to Cole Palmer and says like, oh, well, if he would have played for City the year he came to us, he would have, broke out there. Maybe, but I think that that's the rarity and that's the exception to the rule. And for every Cole Palmer, there's 1,000 dudes you've never heard of that end up playing in other Premier League teams, in championship teams, and League One teams, and League Two teams, and Bundesliga, second Bundesliga, like all throughout the world, right? These guys go everywhere and anywhere. And that's much more likely to me.
All right. Well, boys, we are well over schedule for today. So not going to take up too much more of your time. But any closing thoughts?
Next round of the Conference League. Bring it on.
I'm just still in shock we won today. It's just I don't think anyone there, anyone on Twitter, anyone watching thought we could pull that one out. And we got 3 points from it. So shout out to us, man. We're still in the conversation for it, which I didn't think we were gonna be.
Well, if you enjoyed what you heard, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review. Find us on socials at Flag Down Pod. Maybe we'll get back to posting man of the match polls. We'll see. But from all of us here, happy Easter. If that's what you celebrate. Cheers till next week.
Later.
Later, boys.